Hello, my name is Russ Milheim from The Direct. Thank you guys for being here and talking to me today about the movie.
Hi, thank you so much for having us.
Hi, I love your toys in the background. I also collect figures like that, and very
No
excited.
killer pump yet, but maybe eventually.
That's the next thing you need.
That's the goal.
You know, my first question for you guys is just simply, what was the last thing you guys carved into a pumpkin?
Good question. The last thing we carved into a pumpkin. What was the last thing you carved into a pumpkin? Do you remember?
The last thing I carved into probably a pumpkin, right?
Well, I guess it would have been making this movie because we just wrapped this movie in April, so it was only a couple
I
of
haven't
months
carved
ago.
a pumpkin since then.
Yeah. We just wrapped this movie and we shot it in April where there is no pumpkins. So we actually learned the hard way that pumpkins don't exist in April, and what we had to do was find pumpkins and keep them in a temperature controlled storage unit so that we actually had pumpkins in April, and filming the movie. That was the last thing we carved in it. And it was less of a carving and more of a slaughter. Yeah. So I think slaughtering pumpkins was the last thing we carved.
Did you feel bad about slaughtering these pumpkins?
In the heat of the moment, I think it was more about just amazed that actual real pumpkins were existing in April, because it was our biggest challenge was trying to actually produce a real pumpkin.
It was very therapeutic for Justin to take out his stress about the movie on the pumpkins.
Did you guys ever give the killer pumpkin a name?
Shakira.
Yeah, we did.
That is a great question. I'm so glad you asked it. At some point while I think we were still prepping.
It was you named it Shakira, yeah.
I didn't want to say, but I did name it Shakira. And it was funny. We were throwing around different names, and I said Shakira, and for some reason it stuck. And then all the times that we had like the big pumpkin out and we were puppeting it around, we had Shakira play Hips Don't Lie.
I remember why
in
you
the
named it
background.
Shakira.
Oh, you do?
Yes, because we filmed this at the Shaker Village, Pleasant Hill, which is a 3,000 acre historical village at the Shakers, and it's been preserved from the 1800s, from the early 1800s. So and Shakira shakes.
Shakira the Shaker pumpkin.
So when you said Shakira, we're like, oh, she's a Shaker, and we're in the Shaker Village, and then our and then our key puppeteer Jonathan Craig, who puppeteers this thing,
Fantastic man.
every time he came out, because he wears an easy rig, right, that holds cameras normally. An easy rig would hold the pumpkin on a cable, so every time he came out dangling this puppet, we would play Shakira and the whole crew would dance.
That is true.
Shakira, the new horror icon.
Yeah, exactly.
You guys did it.
That's right.
Now, the movie, is insane and over the top, but there are plenty of grounded elements to it. And so for both of you, in terms of performance and just, directing and writing, what were the grounded elements that you wanted to make sure to bring to what you guys added to the film?
It's a good question. It's a very good question.
Yeah, I mean, I think a big challenge for us in making this whole thing was how to make something that was silly and fun and in many ways over the top and crazy, but also I think in order for audiences to watch it and care, it has to be believable to some extent, and you have to care about these characters and what they're going through. And so I think we were kind of constantly walking that line of when to really make it, crazy and fun, and when to really make sure it felt somewhat believable, So I think that was kind of a constant interplay, and I think the fun kind of juxtaposition is I felt like as much as we were in these kind of crazy scenarios, I think the acting performances were relatively grounded, and then so that in combination with these kind of crazy circumstances, you get this fun combination of elements that I think provides a really unique ride.
Yeah, it's a very delicate balance to keep it grounded in a concept that is inherently ridiculous.
Right.
And so pitching the movie early on, I was saying to everybody, the key is to understand that the characters don't know they're in a horror film. And the films that inspired this were really films that are comedic and are respectful to the horror genre and scary. Films like Ghostbusters. If you watch that movie, the characters aren't acting silly. I mean, the idea is fun, and they're funny characters, but they're not acting funny. They don't know they're in a funny movie. And so the key is to ground as much as possible through casting and through performance and through the script, because it's inherently fantastical. And so you ground it, and then that keeps the balance.
Last question for you guys. I gotta ask, if there's ever a sequel, what are some ideas that you guys would love to explore going forward? And maybe could we get Killer Corn? Could that be next?
So there's kind of two parts to this. The first part is while we were shooting, the cast and I were coming up with ideas for the sequels. We have Cracked, which is our Easter film. Chopped, which is our Christmas film. And so that was kind of half of it. And then Justin has actual ideas.
There is an idea for a sequel that I am in love with that works really well, but it's all obviously top secret, but it's it definitely is something I'm very excited about.
Being thought about.
Exactly.